morning. It's another new week. And for those in the USA, the day to vote. We're all on that. Dr. Johnson and I, you voted, Dr.
I
Johnson?
did indeed.
Great. I do voted also. So it's good. We've done our civic responsibilities. Therefore, now we can take the responsibility of having conversations with Dr. Johnson and educate you on some very good topics. Welcome, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes, and thank you for that drive from the desert on Monday evening.
Oh, it's more fun than you can imagine.
All right.
Yeah, LA traffic is not busy at all.
Okay, I can imagine that. So today we're going to talk about sleep. It's actually my most favorite pastime. I love sleeping. I remember yesterday as I was going upstairs to the bedroom, I'm like, oh, finally I get to sleep. I love sleep. So, Dr. Johnson, tell us, were we born to sleep or were we born to be awake?
Oh, we were absolutely born to sleep, interspersed with being awake.
Oh, really?
And-
So, sleep is the more important part.
Well,
Being awake,
we need a balance.
Okay.
But if you don't have good sleep, that is very bad for your health and
Yeah.
for your physical health and your mental health. Sleep is the time during which our body is able to rebuild and repair whatever damage has happened during the day. If you've been to the gym and lifted weights, you have damaged your muscles, okay? But in a good way, because the body will recover and rebuild that damage and make the muscles stronger than they were to begin with. So a little bit of muscle damage through exercise is a very good thing, but we have to have sleep in order to repair that damage and get stronger. During sleep, there's a lot of body's detoxification going on. During sleep, our brain is able to process all the stuff, good or bad, that has happened to us during the day.
and form memories
And
also.
well, that's exactly what the next words out of my mouth were going to be. It helps us to establish memories, to move our short-term memories into long-term memory. For people that don't sleep well, it's fairly common that if we ask them, "What'd you have for breakfast this morning?" they'll go, "I don't know. Ask me again later." Because sleep is so important at consolidating our memories, turning them into long-term useful memories.
Yeah. So this is really interesting, right? Because we're now in a culture where a lot of people will say things like, I'm fine on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And I tell them that's bullshit. What would you say to them, Doc?
Well, I would probably use a slightly more polite term, but I agree with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yes.
Now, there do seem to be a very tiny handful of people who do well on less sleep, but
Yeah.
most of us need an absolute minimum of 6 hours of sleep per night. We sleep in 90-minute increments, so an hour and a half. So if you're going to get a certain amount of sleep and then wake up, you should do it 90 minutes after you fall asleep, or 3 hours after you fall asleep, or 4.5 hours, or 6 or 7.5 hours, or 9. So most of us need ideally 7.5 hours of sleep. Some people get by on 6. Some people do better on 9. I personally do better on 9 hours of sleep. I can certainly get by on less, but I feel my best when I get more sleep.
So you said there are increments of 90 minutes.
Yes.
So tell us what's going. It's like there is somebody in heaven conducting the choir, and every 9 minutes the bell chimes. Sleep, wake up, get into the next rhythm. So tell us about these rhythms.
Okay, so you and I right now, our brain waves are in what are called the beta state. That's awake, alert, and thinking. When we fall asleep,
Not most people are thinking. Like some people who are voting today, they're not actually thinking. I don't want to credit everybody who's awake with the thinking capacity.
they may not be thinking correctly, but they are thinking.
Yeah, okay, all right.
They are
That's the
thinking.
key point. Yeah.
All right, so our brain waves are in what we call the beta state. As we relax, and there's just sort of this brief twilight period where we're not really awake, we're not really asleep, we're in alpha state.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's when the brain waves have slowed down to a certain degree.
Okay.
Then there's delta and theta state, going deeper and deeper into sleep. and then we reverse that cycle and come back, and after we get up into alpha state, we go into REM sleep, rapid eye movement. That's where we dream. Okay? If you wake up during one of these REM cycles, odds are good that you're going to remember your dreams. If you wake up any other time, say a dog barks outside and it wakes you up, you're probably not going to remember the dreams you had. So this cycling up and down takes 90 minutes.
And why are we cycling? Why don't we just go deep into sleep and then wake up like a valley?
Well, the simple smart aleck answer is because we were designed that way.
All right. So that's interesting.
Well, it has to do with, I think it has to do with our body needing to adjust gradually to these different phases of sleep.
And also, during that time, how is metabolism? Are we using a lot of energy? Because a lot of things are going on. So,
well, our metabolism is slowing down because we're not using our muscles. We don't have to breathe as deeply. Our heart doesn't have to beat as strongly because we're not moving around. We're not moving our muscles.
Okay. So the metabolic requirements are lower.
Yes.
And so that's when they do a lot of absorption, cleaning, excretion.
Yes.
That's why you wake up in the morning and you have this long pee.
Yes.
And poo sometimes, right? You have that pleasurable poo in the morning, makes you feel so good.
Pleasurable poo, that would be called pee-pee.
Yes. So what are the dysfunctions that arise for a lot of people?
Okay.
That is, because there's a cultural issue, but there's also the aging issue around sleep.
Sure.
So can we explore some of that, please, Doc?
Sure. So what causes insomnia? And insomnia, by the way, is defined as trouble falling asleep and or trouble staying asleep and or trouble going back to sleep if something wakes you up.
Wow. So three key things there.
Any and all of those are considered to be insomnia. So what causes insomnia? Well, there are a lot of possible causes. Low thyroid is a very common cause. And
so everybody should be testing for thyroid.
Well, pretty much. If
And what causes low thyroid? Is it just aging?
Well, aging is part of it, and toxicity, heavy metal toxicity especially, is a big part of it. So
when we tell people to detox, right, there is some component there in clearing up the thyroid processes.
Yes.
All right, so thyroid is one.
Yes. Stress is another one.
Yeah, but that's such a big topic, stress.
Oh, so we should skip over it?
No, I didn't want you to be light on it. So can you go more deeply when you say stress?
Well, sure. Everybody intuitively knows when stressful things are happening to them, okay? But stress is not really about what's happening to us. It's really about how we are reacting to what's happening to us.
That's almost a Buddhist issue. It's like you're so present that nothing impacts you.
Well, the Buddhists got a lot of stuff right, and that is certainly one of them.
Yeah, that you should just be present in accepting everything that's happening.
Yes, go with the flow.
Yes.
If that car on the freeway cuts me off,
you say, God bless them. you spray them with love.
I forgive them and I say, okay, maybe he's late to a doctor's appointment.
Yeah, even though he may be coming to see you.
Or maybe he's rushing his wife to the delivery room.
Yes.
So maybe there's a good reason for his being inconsiderate.
And you forgive him.
Yes, absolutely.
Rather than get angry.
And I don't stress about it.
Yeah,
okay?
Wonderful.
So the human body has stress glands. They're called the adrenals.
Yeah.
Okay. And when we're under acute stress, our cortisol, that's one of the main stress hormones, our cortisol level goes up and our adrenaline level goes up. And if we look at what healthy adrenals do, they put out maximum cortisol levels first thing in the morning because that helps to wake us up and get us ready for the day. Those levels fall off drastically by noon, fall a bit more by 4 p.m., and then fall almost to zero by midnight so that we can sleep. If you're under stress and your adrenals are over revved,
yes,
they've gone into overdrive, so to speak, and they don't wind down at night, so your cortisol level stays high, you are going to have difficulty sleeping.
Okay, interesting.
Neurotransmitter imbalances can play a role in
That's
insomnia.
a very big word for this generation of Americans, neurotransmitters. That sounds like the Russians coming for us.
Really?
Well, I want some more detail around neurotransmitters. Is it like a remote control of your brain by the Russians or the Chinese affecting our sleep?
Yeah, sure, that's it. Okay, so neurotransmitters are chemicals. They're almost like hormones that your brains make in order to allow certain cells in your brain to communicate accurately with other cells in your brain. So the four major neurotransmitters are dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, and something called GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. Now, GABA is the calming neurotransmitter, okay? If you're deficient in GABA, which a lot of people are, it's going to be hard for you to calm your brain down when it's time to sleep. And so in those cases, we give our patients GABA. It can be used in small doses during the day for anxiety or stress. It can be used in larger doses at bedtime to help with sleep.
And these are natural nutrients, right?
Yes, yes. Biologically identical.
Yes.
It's not something to trick your brain into thinking it's the real thing. It is the real thing. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's why we support most of our patients with sleep impediments with the nutrients. We're going to talk about those nutrients. So you spoke about the thyroid issues, you spoke about stress, you spoke about the neurotransmitters.
Yes.
What else would impact sleep?
Nutrition is a big one, okay? The mineral magnesium is probably at the top of this list. Now, holistic doctors like myself consider magnesium to be the most important mineral in the human body. Why? Because we need it for over 300 different bodily functions. It's kind of a jack of all trades mineral. And calming and relaxing us is one of those over 300 bodily functions.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, the human body cannot store magnesium. We can store the other minerals, we can store calcium, we can store iron, zinc, selenium, chromium, etc. We cannot store magnesium. Therefore, we need it in our diet every day.
And so we're always depleted of it.
We're always depleted.
Okay.
And the modern diet contains very little magnesium, unfortunately. So virtually all of us need a magnesium supplement, for most of us twice a day. I took my magnesium last night, I took my magnesium this morning. If you
I need to change mine because I just take 2 at night. I need to start taking 1 in the morning. I didn't want to start falling asleep at work to relax. No wonder you look so easy, Doc. No wonder even on the freeway you're smiling and forgiving people. And you think it's the magnesium, Doc, is making you so Buddhist?
That's one of many factors. That's one of many factors.
Yes.
Now, please understand that the vast majority of magnesium that you might find at the health food store is magnesium oxide, which is a very poor quality, very poorly absorbed form of magnesium. The best magnesium is called magnesium chelate. Okay? Chelate means the magnesium is hooked to an amino acid. In this case, it's hooked to the amino acid glycine.
Yes.
That is a much better absorbed form of magnesium and is much less likely to have a laxative effect. The cheap magnesium tends to have a laxative effect. You can still get a little bit of that with the best magnesium, but it's much less likely.
Yeah.
Now, certainly one of the things that you can do if you're constipated is you can take cheap magnesium, and it will tend to have a laxative effect.
Yes, that's interesting. So, Doc, what about some of the hygiene issues around sleep? Because we're talking about poor sleep.
Yes.
And sometimes it may not be any of these underlying chemical factors like thyroid, stress, neurotransmitters, and this other thing. So what about like the temperature of the room, darkness? Because people talk about some of these other things.
Sure. Well, Typically, most people sleep best when the room is a little bit on the cool side.
Yeah.
And because it's on the cool side, then you pull up the covers and you are nice and cozy and comfy and sleep well under these covers. Getting rid of as much light as possible is highly beneficial because we have a pineal gland in our brain which produces the sleep hormone melatonin.
Yeah.
Okay? And,
Melatonin.
and your pineal produces melatonin in response to darkness.
Yes.
And so if you've got lights in your room, that can interfere with that to some degree. Also, if you're past the age of 35 or 40, your body probably is not making as much melatonin as it used to.
Yeah, Karen is getting scared about that because she's getting close to that age. So, Karen, more melatonin because you're getting to the age where you're not producing enough anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if people are watching TV or looking at their cell phones, cell phones put out a lot of light in the blue spectrum, as do TV screens, okay?
Or iPads. Yes.
Blue light is especially bad for our melatonin production, okay? My phone, and I wasn't even aware that this feature was available on cell phones, but my cell phone has a blue filter feature on it that I can turn on and off.
Is that a Samsung or an iPhone?
That's a Samsung.
Wow, well, the iPhone must have it too, I'm sure.
I have no idea. Not an iPhone guy.
So people who sleep with their television on, that's really a bad habit.
It's a bad habit, yeah.
Yes, okay.
It's a bad habit.
So we talk about sleep. A lot of phones and Fitbits and things now measure sleep. So are they measuring those different waves that you spoke about, the 90-minute waves? And therefore, what would be the optimal, how do people find what their optimal sleep outcomes should be, apart from waking up and feeling really refreshed?
Well, if you're waking up and feeling really refreshed and raring to start the day, odds are that you're sleeping well, and it may not be terribly important for you to measure your sleep.
Yeah.
You can have a sleep study done. I don't recommend going to a sleep lab for a sleep study because it's such an artificial environment.
They will not get the real measurement.
Exactly. There are home sleep studies that are available. As far as the Fitbits are concerned and other of those types, I'm not fully up to speed with those. So if you're up to speed, please enlighten us.
I have quite a few friends who are using the Fitbit. We used to give it, I think we still give it to our patients. And most of them are tracking those different stages of sleep.
Okay.
And there is some research that says there's an optimal amount you should be getting of REM and non-REM sleep every night.
Yes.
And if you achieve that, then it's you're also achieving the memory issues, the resets, and all the metabolic issues that or homeostasis that is achieved through sleep.
Yes.
So I think that tracking that and then taking some of the supplementation to support that provides the ultimate health benefits of sleep.
Yes, absolutely.
So because when children are born, they sleep all the time, or most of the time.
Lucky them.
I know, right? And then when you are sick, you go to the hospital, they expect you to be sleeping all the time too.
No, they come in and wake you up every 15 or 30 minutes.
Why is that?
Well, I've got to take your vital signs. Oh, I've got to draw some blood. Oh, we've got to do this test on you. We've got to do that test on you.
When they should let you sleep
Absolutely.
and heal.
Absolutely.
Because the sleeping helps with the healing,
Yes,
right?
yes.
We should put some new rules in hospitals. Don't talk to me for 2 hours. Right? Don't wake me up.
How about don't talk to me for 8 hours?
Exactly. And so what about when you get older? Older people to sleep more because I'm getting older now, and during the weekends I take a nap. Is that a good thing, napping?
Well, it's a good thing if your body needs that. Now,
Okay.
in many people, the need to take a nap is an indicator that their adrenal function is not optimum. Okay. Now, in general, as we age, we produce less and less melatonin. So many older folks sleep less than they should.
Okay.
It's kind of a standing joke that the adult child goes to visit his parents, and they're up banging around, making noise, making coffee, getting breakfast ready at 5 in the morning.
Yes.
And the adult child stumbles out of their bedroom saying, "What are you doing? It's 5 o'clock in the morning." And they say, "Yeah, we know. We let you sleep in."
That's wonderful. So thank you. Send your questions. That was another wonderful conversations with Dr. Johnson. Karen, any questions there?
Yeah, we do. Someone asked that they said that they take melatonin and magnesium, but it's magnesium malate. Is that okay?
Magnesium malate is another good form of magnesium.
Yes.
For people with fibromyalgia,
Yes.
magnesium malate tends to work better for them than other
The
magnesium does.
chelate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The chelate. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
No question now.
All right. So thank you, audience, for watching, and thank you, Dr. Johnson.
My pleasure.
For that deep elaboration on sleep. Tomorrow, since today we spoke about sleep, we're going to talk about being awake. and
I can't wait.
And then, yes, and I know you're going to tell me which is best, being awake or being asleep, right?
It depends
Yes.
on
Is there
what time of the
questions?
day it is.
Yes.
Question. Does taking melatonin cause your body to eventually stop making it on its own?
Oh wow, that's a great question.
Okay, let me see if I
Can
understood
you
the question.
rephrase the question?
Is taking melatonin over the long haul going to cause your body to produce less melatonin?
Yes.
Was that the question?
Yes.
Well, there may be some aspect of truth to that. However, as we age, we're making so much less melatonin anyway, and we need melatonin that if our body produces a little less, it's not a big deal.
Yes.
I take melatonin every night. I've done so for many years, and I
Wow.
sleep better as a result of that.
Yes, and I also do. Yeah, what is your dose on melatonin?
Well, through trial and error, I found out that I personally require a very high dose. I take 27 milligrams.
Wow, I take 6 milligrams plus the magnesium.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, let me make another comment about melatonin. Most melatonin that you might find at the health food store or at Costco is over-the-counter grade, and that doesn't work very well for most people. Pharmaceutical grade is definitely the way to go when it comes to melatonin.
Okay. So, yes, there's another question.
Yes. Is melatonin addictive, and at what age should one start taking it?
No, it's not addictive.
It's a nutrient.
None of these things are addictive. What happens if you take it for a while, whether it's a week, a month, a year, 20 years, if you stop taking it, you will lose the benefit, but not because you were addicted to it, just because your body was enjoying the benefit.
Yeah.
And at what age should you start taking melatonin?
Our hormone levels for most of us start declining at about age 30 and get lower and lower every year, so somewhere around age 30 is logical. But if a 35-year-old is sleeping like a baby, then they don't need to worry about melatonin. Having said that, there are other benefits to melatonin. It's the sleep hormone, it's a longevity hormone, an anti-aging hormone, it's an anti-cancer hormone, and it's a powerful antioxidant. So there are reasons that you may want to take melatonin even if your sleep is good anyway.
And melatonin is also one of the recommended nutrients to support building your immune resistance to COVID-19.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
So it's a very important and for anti-aging and other things.
What about teenagers who suffer from sleeping?
What about?
Too much sleep.
Teenagers.
Who suffer from too much sleep? Or
No, like insomnia.
insomnia. Teenagers.
Well,
Teenagers.
Teenagers these days seem to be under tremendous stress. Social media seems to be a big part of that. If we can get them off social media or at least cut down on their screen time, that would be highly beneficial. Everybody, including teenagers, needs magnesium.
Yes.
Okay. They may need some GABA. They probably don't need melatonin. It's not going to hurt them to take melatonin, but that's probably not what's going on. It's probably stress and
The
adrenals,
different neurotransmitters.
magnesium.
And the blue light.
Got
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank
Awesome.
you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Johnson. That was
My pleasure.
wonderful.
My pleasure.
So tomorrow, like we said, we're going to talk about the challenges of being awake, which affects a lot of teenagers today.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Even though they cannot sleep, they also cannot be awake. So I wonder what state they are in. We'll explore that tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks
All right.
again for having me.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.